here on Be Different podcast. We recorded an episode with a disability liaison officer and a mother who is living with a child with disability. So we just looked for more experiences of motherhood and disability, or parenting and disability. So in this episode, we are joined with Nicole and her mom. I'll let them introduce themselves and share their experiences. Welcome.
Great.
Hi guys, thank you Nakasa for having us. My name is Nicole Chepto. I'm a student at the University of Nairobi, and this is my mother. So I'll let her introduce herself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for knowing you. It's pleasure. My name is Sophie Kachwai. I'm with my daughter here, Debbie Chepto. It's great to be with you all.
Thank you. Nicole ni nini? You want to add? Do we call you Nicole or Debbie? Mama ameshasema. So Debbie, welcome to the show.
Stick to Chepto.
Okay. So guys, it's interesting how a few weeks past we were talking about living with disability, and we've had this conversation with Chepto in the office, and she told us about you, Mom, and we said we will actually sit down and just have a chat of basically telling your experiences and her experiences living with disability. So first, Mom, we'll start with you. Just tell us your story or your experience about living with disability. If you want to tell us what category it is in, how do you categorize it or how do you call it, and how it has been living.
Great. Me, I was affected with polio when I was 9 months. And so my disability, we usually categorize as physical challenge or physically disabled, because I use crutches and I also use calipers. So it affected me when I was 9 months. And so how my mom also used to tell me is that it started like malaria. And so because they didn't know, they took me to normal hospitals, and therefore I was treated. But along the way is that they started seeing my legs being feeble. They could not now walk because I had started walking. So now they thought maybe it's because of that drug that they had given me. But unfortunately, it persisted. So when it persisted, I was referred to Kenyatta Hospital. And in Kenyatta, from the story that I was told, it said now they placed me inside a machine. And that machine, my head would face down while the legs face up. And so I stayed in that machine for like almost 3 months. So they saw as if it was not working. So now they decided to discharge me and they took me back home. So from there, that is where my life changed completely. And now that is when they actually pronounced that it was polio, and therefore I'll never walk again. So it was actually shocking to my parents, and they couldn't upheld it, but they had just to encourage themselves and decided now they have to look for ways on how they can now make me feel loved and also feel accommodated in the family, because I'm fourth born in our family.
Is it fourth?
Fourth born. Yes.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Mom. That's such an eye-opening experience. So how has it been living with that disability? Like, just tell us a little bit about how growing up, what it was like for you, and You can tell us about school, about playing, just socializing at home, and now about being an adult. Just
great.
highlight for us shortly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you once more. Now because that was now it had time, with the time I grew up, and growing up now, I found myself being a disabled child. So with that disability, I would play with any other child, but my playing was now unique. I would use my hands, and I would how do we call it? I would
Naweza tumia Kiswahili mama.
yani unatembea na mikono.
Uh-huh.
So that now, although because of that love from my parents, now I found, maybe I thought that is how I am. So I would play with the rest, but now I would use my knees and, really crawling down. So it was actually normal. But how my parents now decided to do is that they had to build me a place like that one for when you want to dip your cows, so that now I would use it, they would tell me, encourage yourself so that you'll walk one time. So when I would play, I would go there and now start using it to walk. So because I was affected from the spine, so now my only one leg was a bit fair. The other one was really feeble, that could not walk. So I would play and run there, so that maybe because I would see others walking, I would go maybe think that if I use that stand, maybe I would walk. So I used that before I went to school. I went to school when I was 9, I was 10 years. So I would play, and the goodness with my parents is that they loved me so much, and they made sure the other siblings would appreciate me. So I stayed at home. Even my follower went to school before me. So, but what my parents instilled in me is that you have to stand with your stand. That is, you appreciate yourself, and even the rest that are following you, they should know that you are. We used to call ourselves number 4. So no one would come before your number. You stand, you say, I am bigger, or I'm the eldest than the other one. So that is how I was given. So when the rest would go to school, I would cry. I also wanted to go to school, but because where we lived and where the school was very far. So they decided now they should look for a school for me, because now I had reached 10 years. So they had to look for me a school for persons with a disability. So fortunately enough, I got 2 schools, that is Joyland in Kisumu and Joytown in Thika. And because my parents were a bit alarmist, because by then, Kisumu, there was a lot of outbreak of cholera. So they would say, it is better I go to Joytown. So they settled into Joytown. So I was taken to Joytown. That was in the year 1976.
So to your adult life, so you went to a special school. That's quite interesting. I would have asked that question. And now to your adult life. How was it now getting into now after school? Like, what did you do after school?
Okay, I learned through primary level. I have up to class 7. Then I passed. Not because we were from the West, from these sides of Western, it started becoming a bit expensive to my parents. So what they did is that they looked for me a nearby school. That is, I went first of all to Kibuk Girls Secondary School. In fact, being in Kibuk Girls was a toughest experience that I ever. Being from Joytown, the pathways all were tarmac, or it was tarmac. So you would use the pathways which were not muddy. So it was very good, from dormitory to dining hall, from dining hall to classroom. Now finishing that experience in primary, going to secondary school was hectic and pathetic. So now I went to Kibuk Girls. And you can imagine a school in mountainous place. When it rains, it was really, really a problem. Imagine using crutches, and those crutches now with the mud, you would use a very long time reaching from dormitory to classroom. You would use a longer time because of mud. My crutch would stick in the mud. So removing one, you have to now go to the other one. So it was really, really tough. But because I had that desire that there is a life that I wanted to live, I had to endure. It was tough because reaching classroom already, the rest I've already started learning. Now, the other part, a bitter part of it is that when we were going for physics or chemistry or biology, you get out of your classroom going to the laboratory. People would run to go and get the front chairs or where you could sit properly. Now I had to request my desk mate to carry for me the books and run and get me also a space. So I would be left behind struggling. Either when it is muddy, I would use the same, and I would go through the same experience, removing one crutch from mud and the other one. So it took me a longer time to reach, and laboratory was a bit far from where our classroom was. So I would use even more minutes reaching to the laboratory. But that did not deter me from continuing. Even if I go when the teacher had started, I would still persist on, and I wasn't feeling anything bad because I knew this is something that is with me. I cannot run away from it, but just to accept it. So what I learned a trick is that when I know it is physics time or chemistry, when even the teacher was there, I would ask for permission now to start to get out from class so that I would reach now, because physics and chemistry was a bit hard. So what I would do is that I would get out of class early. And mostly I used to pray that the teacher may not come when we are having a physics class or chemistry, so that before when teacher is not there, I would go early now to move around the laboratory if the rest are not there. So you can see it was such a hectic and a very pathetic experience. That is not enough. Our school again did not have enough facilities. You can imagine bathroom, toilet. It was really, really bad experience. Because although by then I was very flexible, the toilets were not like the modern toilets now. So I used to fear to go to the toilet. So what I would do is that I would always stay for a longer time, so that now, because we used to school with my cousin, so I would tell her to prepare for me a place whereby I could go and use for my either short calls or long calls, because I would not use a pit latrine. Because using pit latrine, because I'm disabled, it means I have to leave my crutches and hold down. So seeing such experience was such a very bad experience. So I had to learn tactics on how I cannot hold those, go to that dirty pit latrine. So I used to have tactics on how I can survive. Unaona sasa. It was actually, so I would ensure very early in the morning, I have to go before any other person, or if it has happened, then we have to modify ways on how to go about. So actually my secondary life was really tough, but I had to really build a mechanism to ensure that I go through the secondary school. So reaching Form 2, Form 3, I transferred from Kibu Girls to Cherangani High School. And Cherangani High School is mixed. But because Cherangani was a bit fairer, because now Kibu girls, because of stigma, and so I had to go back home and complain to my dad. I told Dad, if you want me to really finish school, then you have to transfer me to a better school, and that is either a Sunday school where when it rains, it is not as muddy as Kibu girls. Because being actually at the slopes of the mountain, you can imagine that soil. So good enough, my auntie was a teacher in Cherangani High School. So they requested her, and good enough, I got Cherangani High School. So I went Cherangani now High School when I was in Form 3. So now I learned there. Now again, being with boys and girls, at least I saw that place was better because the school was on a higher level. There were pathways which were tarmac, although also not all. But now it was a bit better than Kibu girls. So I went there from 3, 4. So it was actually good because the facilities were closer to each other. It was not like Kibu girls. So I learned there, at least the life started being good. So I learned now from 3, 4. Then I passed also. I went from 5 and 6 there. So we were competing with boys. And so I had to really also work hard because I also wanted to be somewhere. Because the vision that I had in my mind is that I wanted to live a good life. I wanted also to be responsible. I also wanted, because now after meeting boys, and other girls, now I saw it is good also to be somebody that I would be admired. And actually, when I finished Form 4, I passed well. Now my dad was telling me I go to Mseho girls, that is Form 5 and 6. I said, no, I want also to be with the boys because we were with blessers and we looked nice. So I said I will remain in the same school. So that's why I remained the same school, and boys were very, very sympathetic. When it rained, what the boys would do is that they would carry me. So when it rained during prep time, I used not to walk. The boys would carry me from my classroom to the dormitory that I stayed. They were such a good boys, and they would, make fun. It is my turn to carry Sophie. So that is how I enjoyed that school. Thank you.
And I've loved on your behalf that you're being offered like a queen from class to what are they called? Hostels. Yeah, that was really interesting. So now, Nicole, do we now go to you and now your experience with mom in terms of now when did you learn? Of course we are all born, you're like, yeah, mom, nini, but when did you really learn that your mom has a challenge or she's living with disability?
So for the longest time, I thought that, like in my head, it was like alikuwa anapanda mti, akikuwa mdogo, akaanguka, and then akavunjika mguu, and it didn't go back to how it used to be. So when I was going to Form 1, then we were talking. So that was then I was like, Mom, by the way, what happened to you? So nikamwambia how I understood what happened to her. And she was like, no, that's not what happened. I had polio. And so that's where that conversation began. And for the longest time, I've always loved her. So I don't see her disability because she's taken me through primary. I have gone to the best schools, mostly private. High school, she used to be there for me. And the interesting thing is when we were having that discussion, I was going to Form 1. She was like, I hope now that you're going to high school, I won't come to see you during visiting days. and then unitoroke. And then she told me this she told me this story of how this other, you see this story that they have in books, how a mother gave the child her eyes when the child was young, and then the child alikuwa na mdharau growing up because the mother didn't have another eye. So she thought that would happen to her, but I love her regardless. So yeah, it's never been
I
an
like
issue.
that. So, Mom, I really like the way that you've talked about how your strength and how you faced the challenges that you had. So I wanted to find out whether when Nicole came as a baby or as a child, everyone can't wait to get to that stage where they can send their children in that house. You send for remote, you send for cup and drinking water, you send your kids everywhere. So I wanted to know the level of, like, how much did you and Nicole help each other? Like, did she need to help you extra differently from the rest of the kids? That's what I want to know. Was there a difference?
The difference is that when Nicole used to grow, I think she had a touch. I don't know how, but she used to ensure, first of all, when she was growing, she used to walk as I used to walk. Being in the house, I would leave the crutches again and walk with my hands. So she would also do the same. So I would ask her, no, don't walk like that. You walk upright. And say, why? I'm walking like you. They said, no. So all of them, now Nicole and even the children of my sisters, whenever they come visit me or when I go visit them, so all of them would imitate me. And they didn't find anything. They thought that is how I am. So, so what Nicole did is that she used to ensure that whenever anything I want, she would run very fast. When I say I wanted this thing, she would say, is this what you wanted? So she was very, very sharp. That is, he would bring me the exactly thing that I wanted, even before I sent her. So what I learned about her is that she was so much attached to me that every time she really wanted to know what mom wanted, so that she would get it before somebody else bring that thing before her. So that is what I learned. So what it made me now to tell her, when you grow, I want you to be my leg. I want you to do things that I cannot do. Because now you are, I've given you birth because I want those legs of yours to be doing for me what I'm not able to do. And for sure, there was a time she would remind me that, Mom, do you remember when you told me that I'll be your legs? I said, yes, it is not yet, but time is coming. Yes.
Wow. So has it come yet?
Not yet, because, because at the moment she's still at school. We are not together, but time is when I'll be aging. I will really, really need her by then, because she has to be there for me. She has to ensure that how will mom move, because now with my age, it will need a time when I won't use the crutches.
Yeah.
So that is when I will tell her, now I want those legs of yours. So telling her that when I want those legs of us is when she will know what now, how can I give you my legs and yet I need them? Then I will tell her, maybe I want a motorized wheelchair.
One is number one on my list.
Okay, so my next question actually was going to go to that in terms of now that you've lived with this disability, Mom, since you were young, are you registered? Are you within the framework of the government services? Do you access those ones?
Yeah, I do access to those services. One thing is that after my school, after everything, I got an employment with the government. I work at the DC's office. And so that has enlightened me. I've registered with the National Council for Persons with a Disability. what I have never been able to access is tax exemption. Whenever I start that process, it is so tedious that you do it, you get tired, you go back, you go and sit back. So then it makes me say, after all, I'm working, let them now cut those taxes of theirs. Because now when I start again the process is so tedious, you start afresh. So starting afresh again that I want to be exempted, you read somewhere, they tell you you will have to go back to the hospital, you have to go to be assessed again, it's like renewing again. So that makes you, because now you are working, maybe you had taken a few days to go and do those things. You've gone up to Nairobi, going to Nairobi, you are sent back to the sub-county. You can imagine, and maybe you had taken like 10 days, coming back again and going back to Nairobi, it becomes so tedious. So that is the process that imagine I've never finished, because it is so tedious and the demands are too much that I usually do it up to the way I leave it like that. So me with the tax exemption, I've never been exempted, and I'm still paying taxes. Another thing is that what I would say is that, again, being in the government, you see, I have seen many things that I usually say, if I'm given an opportunity, I would say. One is that we also, we are treated on the same level with other able people. So whenever we are like, when you are in the same job group, and you see our life is very expensive. So they do not treat us like different able people. They also give us the same job group, the same houses, because house allowance, and the same, if it is a hospital, we are given the same. Having in mind that, you see, them or traveling allowance, having in mind that I cannot walk. You see, person who is able, he can stay maybe in a better place. He can estimate that if I can walk up to this place, I can use this, and therefore I'm able to do what? To use my traveling allowance to a certain time. But imagine we are given the same, and me, I have to use maybe to hire a vehicle. If I do not have, I have to use any other means to ensure that I reach that office on time. So you can imagine, I'm not given a different traveling allowance. So again, because house allowance, I cannot say in a crowded place where there is sharing of other facilities because of the way I live. So it forces me, I have to go and live a better place whereby you pay a higher house allowance because of my hygiene and just to have a good accommodation. Because I cannot share latrines or I cannot share bathroom with other people. So I need my own bathroom, I need my own toilet. So that forces me to live an expensive house, and that forces me to live beyond my means. So you can imagine, our life is very, very expensive, but the government has never treated us in a better place. So what I would actually urge is that the government should, if we are elected, for example, if you are in job group K or job group L or N, at least we should be given, if you are supposed to be N, given another one job group because of the expenditure or because of your life, you see. For instance, like again, another thing is that if you are using public means, you can imagine you can be left, because when the matatu is in a hurry, they cannot give you that time to climb that matatu. So you find yourself many matatus leaving because they want somebody who can jump on it very fast. So you find it is expensive, or you waste a lot of time waiting for that. So it forces you, if you want to reach that place on time, you must use an extra coin to ensure now you work together with the rest. So you see, our life actually is very expensive and our life is very tedious, if I may say so.
It's interesting. Already you've mentioned your work, your employment, because there's a day tulikuwa tunaulizana hapa na Chepto. I said your mom is really paying, a lot to take you through school, and we were just appreciating your work. And then she started saying, by the way, I've never asked where my mom gets this money, so she should hear it from you. How you work hard.
Mm-hmm. What
and
I
how
do,
you really, and how you put value in education.
You see now, my mother, because when I grew, my mother used to tell me, I want to take you to school so that you talk English and you communicate with the rest and you'll be on an equal plate. So from that thing, it has never gotten out of my mind. So I also used to tell her, I want you to learn and be like any other child, despite of I being a disabled lady. I want you to get all other privileges like any other child. So what I ensured is that as being a civil servant, we get meager salary. But what we have done is that I have gone an extra mile. Yeah. One is that I do farming so that it can add value with the little salary that I do earn. So that now when it comes to paying fees, I'll be able to get that money from my farming and put to the maybe salary, or I take a loan. And taking a loan, it means I have really to have to tie my belt. So I ensure now taking that loan with the little money from the farm, and then what I do, I pay her fees. I thank my brother because he was able to give me, he bought himself a land, but he ensured that he gave me that land. He gave me a 5-acre piece of land that you plow it. If you are able, if you love farming, you plow it and ensure that you teach your daughter and pay fees for your daughter.
That is so good, ma'am. We are learning. Nicole and I are learning here.
For sure. And do you know what? And do you know what? Running that, I would use boda. I started with the bicycle.
Yeah.
That is bicycle. From bicycle, I promoted to piki. Then from now, piki is when maybe I was promoted to a vehicle. But actually, most of my lifetime, I've used boda, a bicycle. That is how I was moving from one point A to point B. And I would not sit down, I would ensure that I am always in the farm because I wanted money. And even for me to live a good life, because I also needed a good life. I also needed to have bread every day on my table. So it ensured that I would not sit down, but to move mostly at the farm, mostly to ensure that I go get people to work for me so that at the end, I get some produce.
Wow. We are learning. Now this has moved to farming, Mom. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your relationships experience and your pregnancy journey? Those are the two things I wanted to ask you. They were at the back of my mind.
Okay. With pregnancy, I got it when I was of age. So that because one thing is that at the back of my mind, I didn't want to give my parents or my relatives problem. So I used to, not really shame, but I used to say if I would get pregnant. One thing is that we have experience as disabled ladies. I want to share with you that actually it's so painful. Disabled ladies are always not appreciated by men. They do, if they have admired you or they've liked you, they would not come to you during broad day. They would look time like at night, and that they would come hiding. So to me, that thing was really painful in my heart. who am I that somebody would look for me at night? So that thing really, really tortured me. And so I had said in my back of my mind, if somebody cannot come to my parents, then me, I was not ready to give birth.
Yeah.
So just it happened now when I was working. Then people, yes, would come. And then because they used to come at night, I would tell them, no, 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 no. If you do not come to me at broad day, then I'm not ready to have a relationship with you. So that thing helped me. I stayed until I was of really age, because I got when I got Debbie, I was almost 30 something years.
Okay. Okay.
So now, when I had reached that age, my mother now started having some fears. It said, now you are really of age, and I want you to have somebody who can really take care when you grow old, who will be there for you. Then she would tell me, a child is not a dress. You cannot borrow anybody a child. So if you cannot have your own child, it means you will stay there. And when it comes to difficult problems, nobody can lend you your child. So my daughter, can you try a way to get just even one child? Now that thing now started disturbing me. So it happened now, because now we were working and now social life, that is where now I got a friend. At least this friend did not come to me during night. Now we started socializing at least a bit. And because I have it in the back of my mind, I say, after all, my mom has given me an okay that I have only one child. So it happened now, I have this friend. That is how I ended up, because he would come during the day, even in the office. He even would take time and come and tell me, I want to take you for lunch. So to me now, it was like a healing wound, because this person has come to me during a broad day. Even everybody knows that this is somebody who is dating Sophie. So that is how it is. And then I ended up being now pregnant. So that is when I got pregnant of Nicole. Then after that, after getting pregnant, now because of my disability and the way I'm deformed, so it started disturbing me when I was as 5 months. Now I started having what we call high blood pressure. And high blood pressure now was so severe that it really, really threatened the pregnancy. But now, because I was working, and by then that man was a bit closer to me, so he really took care of me. I would go to antenatal, then I would be given some medicine and told me have a bed rest. So I did have bed rest for at least for like a month. That was now in June. By July now I could not stay in the house, because now the pressure had come plus edema. So I was now told I have to be hospitalized. So now I was hospitalized in when I was 7 months. So now I had to stay the whole month in the hospital, because now every part of my body was swollen. Even you could not see my eyes, you could not see anywhere, everywhere. So I was swollen. So it really needed the attention of the doctor. So, but reaching 8 months, it could not hold anymore. So the doctor just advised me that if you really want your child has to be, they have to do cesarean to ensure. So they really monitored to ensure that the heartbeat was there. So now they had to do me cesarean when I was 8 months. So Debbie was born she was born actually when she was 8 months, and she was 500 grams.
Look at me now. Look at me now.
She was 500 grams.
So that meant you guys stayed in the hospital again for another.
Because I went there because Debbie was actually meant to be born February 1999. So I had to do what? I had to stay there now for another 3-4 months.
Yeah.
in
So
the
they can't
hospital.
discharge you until the baby gets to a certain weight.
Yeah, so when I gave birth to baby, because he was 500 grams, he was to be taken to nursery. So he stayed in the nursery. Incubator. Actually, she had to be in the incubator for that period. But also the experience of pregnancy was a bit tough, because after all that, during those days, paying 100,000 was a mountain, because Debbie, I had to pay 100,000 for the cesarean and for the doctor and staying that long. So it forced me now to look for well wishers, because by then 100,000 was not money. That was not small money. It was big money. So good enough, the colleagues, because everybody now wanted me to have the child. Everybody was wishing me well. My colleagues actually came there for my support. They contributed. Then my parents also came in. Even the father of the child by then gave his hand. Although now after that, it's like, so hey, it's such an experience, a very expensive experience. So he had to start now distancing himself from us now, because he was saying it is such an expensive experience. You are here for the mother, you are here for the child. So it was expensive. So he started distancing himself. And distancing himself is that he started dating a colleague in the office again. So which now made my experience to be so bad and so hurting, because now he ended up dating the secretary in the same office that I was working from. That made me, after seeing that, experiencing this man now dating another man, another lady, I decided, because by then HIV had started becoming rampant. I swore in my heart. I said, now, if this is the kind of life the disabled person can pass through, what about if you can have HIV? How bad will it be? One, again, is that you will make your relatives or your parents to pass through a tough moment. So I imagine, because I'm a disabled lady, if I can have that disease, it means at the end of it, I'll not be able to walk. I'll not be able to do anything. It means I'll be carried. It means many things. I'll really make my relative to pass a tough experience. So that I decided by then, when Debbie was 3 years, and that is all. So what made me, I transferred from Bungoma to Trans Nzoia County by then in 2004, because I wanted to close the chapter and started a new chapter in a new county. By then it was a new district. So I said, I am going to chart my way and take care of my daughter. So that is how I charted my way, and I lived that way to date. I decided not to have any relationship with any other man. I just have my own life and ensure that I bring up Debbie the way it is required.
Thanks for sharing, Mom. You've almost answered my next question. By the way, I hope, Nicole, you're listening. I won't repeat these lessons for you. There are so many lessons to pick from what Mom is
I am
saying.
sitting next to you. I will let you repeat.
So,
Yes.
I just wanted you to comment shortly. You've mentioned your siblings and now Nicole and the other kids. Apart from that, is there anyone else in your social space? Do you have a social life, a social space?
Okay.
My social life is that what I made my social life to be interesting is that I joined union.
Politics.
I joined, that is politics. So that I now politic, I go around, go those meetings. I ensure that I'm I really agitate the rights of civil servants.
Wow.
Secondly, is that I go to these meetings, these political meetings. Another social life is that I've ensured to return back to the community. I'm now a board member to various schools to ensure that I give back again to the community, to ensure that a child with a disability is taken care of just in primary and even in secondary and even in university. I said why I reached where I reached is that the universities were not friendly. The colleges were not friendly. They had built storied houses. They were having classes maybe in a storied. I remember even when I was taken in college when I was working, I could not pursue that my dream because the college was a storied, and you can imagine one person among many. So they would decide. They tell you decide. Do you want to suffer? How do you reach there? And people are not sympathetic. Others, I say, you cannot force my class just to start looking how we are going to sit, to rearrange. So decide. You defer, then go and decide which other course you can take. So it made me now, I say, if it is college, the experiences you pass through. So now it made me, I involved myself into giving back to the community by going to those schools, by maybe going around championing for immunization to ensure that no child is left without being immunized. I would go to maybe ensure to women groups so that I'm just busy, that my schedule is busy, not any time that I'm left thinking and worrying what I'm going to do. So, but what I would do is that I would be very busy. If I'm not in those meetings, I either go to the farm. I go to talk with the workers there and tell them I want this to be done, I want this to be done. So that is how I've really made my social life to be busy, not actually to be idle, so that I start imagining what I can do or how bad I'm not, So I've just indulged myself into many. And even at the moment, I'm in the county education board. So I'm really giving back to education that is in these schools and even in the county, trying to tell them how they should take care of a child born with either having disability, how we can have a better life, not the way us we were brought up during those years of ours. Yeah.
Thank you, Mom. Nicole, what have you learned something new from your mom's experiences?
Asking, my whole life has been a lie.
You've had some stories today.
Yeah, knowing the pain that she has gone through, especially when I found out we used to have a photo of me in an incubator. So those times I was a hyper person. So I used to go and show my friends in primary that I was in an incubator. So I lost that photo. But we had that photo. So when I learned about that, and my aunties, those that helped mom when she was in the hospital, they would tell me, do you know you almost killed your mother? And so, like, when they tell me that and the fact that we are both alive, so it makes me want to work so hard to ensure that, as she said, when the time comes for her to ask for my legs, I can actually give her, and they could be strong enough to hold her and sustain her.
Wow. I have really loved this conversation. Mom, the next time I'm coming to Kitale, I'm coming to visit you. I am now I know you, you know me.
Yeah.
I'm coming to Kitale, I'm coming to visit you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. So, Mom, do you have a parting shot?
Yeah, the parting shot is that do not discriminate. All children are the same. If any parent happens to have a child with a disability or with any form of disability, do not discriminate. Children are children. You can't imagine that even I, being a child with a disability, have helped so much in our family that even you cannot compare with other child without a disability.
Imagine she used to wash clothes in the river.
Yes.
Imagine.
My hobbies were to ensure that clothes are clean, ensure that clothes, the house is clean, because that is what now I found I was able to give. My parting shot is that give every child an opportunity, and it shall be well with you parents or with any other person with a child with a disability. But once you discriminate, because I remember I helped another parent wenye walikuwa wanafungia mtoto wao kwa banana plantation. Because of her disability or of his disability, they didn't want to see that child being seen by another child, another person. So what they did is that they would get that child very early in the morning. They go and tie that child at the banana plantation. So until one neighbor saw that child, and then they say, if this child is disabled, I've been seeing another lady. By then I was in Bungoma. This lady is disabled. So how can she be of help to these parents? So they came where I was, and she just shared that experience to me and say, I don't know how you will do, but just organize and see how that child can be removed from banana plantation. So what I did is that God has given me wisdom. I just found myself organizing a group of persons with a disability. Now, with the help of the office, we did something like creating awareness. And we did it closer to that place where that parent and that child is. So what we did is that we did awareness, and we talked. And so talking is like we are using microphone for that family to hear. You know, that parent came and she was crying, how can I be of help? How can you people help me? Because I have one. So that child was able to be given and was taken to a school. It was a school in Bungoma there. It is in Mumias. So that child was able to, the child was removed from that parent and was taken to Mumias. You can just imagine. And so because of the experience, we cut the link from the parents, and that child was taken with that home and never again to be seen, because we ended up telling that parent, if you are tying that child in a banana plantation, it means you didn't want that child. So what we will do is that give us that child and never to see. So I don't know whether that parent ever went again to look for that child, but that child was taken by the government, and the parents were left there.
Thank you so much, Mom. Thanks for sharing. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you. I'll say Nicole's mom. I can't get myself to call you your name, and because of the respect that I have for you. I'm so glad to have met you. Thank you for sharing your story and your experiences. Trust me.
Yes.
From where I am, I have learned so much. And I believe that anyone who hears your story and this experience, they will learn a lot from it. Continue the good work. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. You have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.